He's the only guy in this world I'll ever spend that much money on.
Welcome back to more Girls Next Door. I'm your host, Girls Next Door mega fan and Y2K survivor Megan. Today we're revisiting Season 3, Episode 10, Home Sweet Sweet, which originally aired May 19th, 2007. Most people celebrate their 81st birthday by going out to dinner with family, maybe opening a few presents and calling it a night by 8 o'clock. Hugh Hefner was not most people. For his 81st birthday, there was a private jet, a luxury Sky Villa at the Palms, a celebrity-filled nightclub, front row seats to Cirque du Soleil, backstage champagne with the cast, autograph signings, and then, because that wasn't enough, everyone flew home to throw another elaborate party at the mansion. Watching it all unfold, I couldn't stop thinking about how exhausting it must have been. Not for Hef, for everyone else. Because one thing this episode makes crystal clear is that celebrating Hef's birthday wasn't just attending a party. It was producing an event. The staff packed with military precision. The girlfriends planned multiple wardrobe changes. Hotel employees prepared the suite before they even arrived. There were photographers, fans, casino executives, security, playmates, family members. Oh my. Some birthdays involve blowing out candles. This one required logistics. But before we head to Las Vegas, let's crack open the Y2K vault. If you wanted to know what your favorite celebrity was doing in 2007, you didn't open Instagram. You went to PerezHilton.com. Back then, celebrity gossip wasn't something that found you. You had to go looking for it. And millions of us did every single day. Perez Hilton had become one of the most visited websites on the internet, posting paparazzi photos almost as quickly as they were taken. Half the fun wasn't even the celebrity news itself. It was the ridiculous doodles he'd draw all over the pictures and the snarky captions that somehow managed to be both mean and strangely addictive. Around the same time, TMZ was still the new kid on the block. It had only launched the previous year, but it was already changing the way people consumed celebrity news. Suddenly, a star couldn't leave a restaurant, pump gas, or walk through an airport without someone shoving a camera in their face. And then there were the magazines. Us Weekly, People, In Touch, Star, Life and Style. It felt like every checkout aisle at the grocery store was lined with headlines promising shocking celebrity breakups, secret weddings, miracle diets, or somebody's new mystery romance. It was impossible to escape. And it's funny how different it was from today. Celebrities now control so much of their own image through social media. If Taylor Swift wants to announce an album, she posts it herself. If Ryan Reynolds wants to make a joke, he tweets it. In 2007, celebrities didn't have that luxury. The paparazzi usually got there first. And that's part of what makes this episode so interesting. By the third season of The Girls Next Door, Holly, Bridget, and Kendra weren't just reality TV personalities anymore. They were becoming celebrities themselves. Wherever they went, cameras followed. Fans gathered. People wanted photos, autographs, and just a few seconds of their attention. The producers had spent years trying to make it seem like life at the Playboy Mansion was unfolding naturally in front of the cameras. But by 2007, the cameras weren't the only reason people were paying attention. The girlfriends had become stars in their own right. And nowhere is that more obvious than this trip to Las Vegas. So please, kick off your candies, hang up the trucker hat, and silence your sidekick for today's recap of The Girls Next Door Season 3, Episode 10, Home Sweet Sweet.
Puffin' Boo! What's up? What are we doing for your birthday this year?
We're going to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Palms are sending a plane. The notion is that we might want to go to the Beatles show.
For Hef's 81st birthday, we are going to have his birthday in Vegas, which is a really big deal because it's the first time he's done that. I better find some cute outfits.
The episode opens in Hef's bedroom where Holly bounces onto the bed beside him with an enthusiastic, "Puffin' Boo!" If you've watched enough Girls Next Door, little moments like this barely register anymore. Every couple has their own language, and somehow Puffin' Boo had become part of theirs. Hef is propped up in bed, casually eating a bowl of soup from a tray, when Holly asks the question that sets the entire episode in motion. "So what are we doing for your birthday this year?" Without much fanfare, Hef tells her they're heading to Las Vegas. The Palms Resort and Casino is sending a private jet to pick everyone up, and while they're there, they'll celebrate with a weekend full of events, including a performance of Love, Cirque du Soleil's Beatles-inspired spectacular. Simple enough, or maybe it just sounds simple from Hef's delivery. Because after nearly 3 seasons of this show, I think we've learned that nothing involving Hugh Hefner is ever as straightforward as it first appears. One thing that won't be simple this episode is the wardrobe. Holly, Bridget, and Kendra boutique hop for celebratory outfits, stretching that weekly allowance over new dresses that can go from press junket to disco party. Kendra makes an odd confession in her confessional. "Hef's the only guy I'd ever spend that much money on." That would be the money he gave you, specifically for clothes, right? Okay. From there, we cut to the mansion employees preparing for departure. Hef leaving the mansion required the coordination of an entire staff and enough luggage to make it look like everyone was relocating instead of leaving town for 2 nights.
Hey, dude, I got the list for what we got to pack for the boss. The food items, the English muffins, the Lipton soup.
The blue blazer, the metallic blazer, and the gray slacks.
Well, there is quite a bit that goes into getting prepared, setting up, packing for Mr. Hefner to go on any trip. Mr. Hefner is a creature of habit. He has the same breakfast every morning. He always has a standard soup meal every afternoon.
And how about the juicy fruit chewing gum?
Juicy fruit chewing gum I already purchased.
Brian from Guest Services reads from a packing checklist. English muffins, check. Hard-boiled eggs, check. Armani suits number 1, 9, and 15, check. Meanwhile, every item is carefully sealed, organized, and placed into large, temperature-controlled bins before being labeled and loaded onto the plane. Most of us start packing by asking ourselves, how many pairs of this or that do I need? Hef's staff started by asking, how do we recreate his entire daily routine in another city? There really is something fascinating about that. It's one thing to have favorite foods or a preferred brand of pajamas. Most of us have little comforts we like to bring when we travel. But this was an operation. Every detail had been thought through before Hef even stepped onto the plane, all with the goal of making sure that once they arrived in Las Vegas, life would feel almost exactly as it had back at the mansion. Next, of course, we check in on the girlfriends, and their packing styles are exactly what you'd expect after spending 3 seasons with them. Holly folds each outfit with the kind of precision that would make a Marie Kondo fan proud. Everything is neatly organized inside her matching Louis Vuitton luggage, and I have no doubt she pre-planned her looks to cohesively exude sexy 2000s elegance. Bridget, meanwhile, isn't just packing outfits, she's packing possibilities. If there was even the slightest chance an occasion might call for a themed look, Bridget was going to be ready for it. And I have no doubt she had backup accessories for her backup accessories. And then there's Kendra. In her disaster zone of a bedroom, Kendra tosses a duffel bag onto the floor and scoops heaps of whatever is around it inside. It's truly impressive how consistently the show stays true to each of their personalities. You could mute this entire sequence and probably still identify whose suitcase belonged to whom in 5 seconds or less. Once everyone's packed, it's time for the traditional departure photo. Before they leave the mansion, the entire group gathers at the base of the grand staircase while photographers snap a few pictures. It's a scene we've watched play out before every major trip, and the snapshots always provide the perfect opportunity to really focus on what everyone was wearing. Bridget looks like she's about to board the Soul Train, wearing a colorful psychedelic print with chunky white accessories, oversized sunglasses, go-go boots, and perfectly coiffed blonde hair. Seriously, she looks like Ron Burgundy's dream girl. Bridget never seemed overly concerned with whether something was trendy. If she loved a particular era or aesthetic, she committed to it completely. Sometimes it worked beautifully, sometimes it was a little over the top, but it always felt authentically her. Hef stuck with what had become his unofficial uniform. A Playboy branded button-up, basic blazer, pressed slacks, and, of course, the captain's hat. Joining them on the trip are cyber girl Crystal Camden, playmate Juliana Marino, 2006 Playmate of the Year Cara Monaco, Hef's brother Keith, his date Tamika, and Hef's assistant Mary O'Connor. Before long, everyone boards the private jet and heads for Las Vegas, where they're greeted by a fleet of chauffeured vehicles waiting to take them to the Palms Resort and Casino. As they pull up, the hotel's massive digital marquee reads, "Celebrate Hef's birthday, Saturday, March 24th at Moon with the girls next door."
Oh, look, Hef's birthday weekend! We were super excited because when we pulled up to the Palms, there was this huge marquee and it had our names on there. And we were just so excited. It was really cool to see our name that big in Las Vegas.
Welcome.
That marquee perfectly captures how much had changed since the show premiered. When The Girls Next Door debuted in 2005, this series was largely sold on the novelty of life inside the Playboy Mansion with Hugh Hefner. By the spring of 2007, the girlfriends had become part of the attraction. The casino wasn't just advertising Hugh Hefner's birthday, it was advertising The Girls Next Door. That might seem like a subtle distinction, but I actually think it's an important one. Holly, Bridget, and Kendra were no longer just supporting characters in Hef's world. Their names carried enough recognition that they helped sell tickets, fill nightclubs, and draw crowds. Whether the show fully acknowledged it or not, the dynamic was shifting. Once inside the Palms, they're escorted to the Hugh Hefner Sky Villa and greeted by owner George Maloof along with a personal bartender. This will serve as everyone's home for the weekend. Calling it a hotel suite almost feels insulting. This place was something like 9,000 square feet and had just about every luxury you could imagine. It was one of those over-the-top penthouses that existed as much for publicity as it did for overnight guests. If memory serves, it even had its own indoor waterfall, a cantilevered glass jacuzzi that hung over the edge of the building, and, of course, the feature everyone remembers, the rooftop infinity pool overlooking the Las Vegas Strip. It's the kind of suite that's fun to look at because it's so wildly impractical. You don't watch this and think, I'd love to stay there someday. You watch it thinking, who on earth actually lives like this? Everyone settles in with cocktails while Kendra immediately appoints herself the unofficial tour guide. With boundless energy, she grabs Hef and Mary and leads them through the space. At first, it feels like she's genuinely excited to show them around. But then they walk into the bedroom. And you realize this entire detour had one very specific purpose. The round, rotating bed. If there was a rotating bed within a 100-mile radius of Hugh Hefner, you knew the cameras were going to find it. By this point, the spinning bed had become part of Hef's mythology. It had been referenced in movies, television shows, magazine articles, you name it. It was one of those pop culture symbols people associated with Playboy, whether they'd ever set foot in the mansion or not. Mary sits down on the edge of the bed while Hef joins her, and Kendra races over to the control panel like a toddler who just found the light switch. Ready? Ready? Put your hands up! As the bed begins to move, Mary laughs and says, I don't have anyone to kiss. Without missing a beat, Hef leans over and gives her a peck on the lips before replying, Oh, yes, you do. To me, their friendship had always felt incredibly genuine, and after everything they'd experienced together over the years, it came across less like flirting and more like two lifelong friends sharing an inside joke. It's a brief little moment, but I think it says a lot about how comfortable everyone in Hef's inner circle had become with one another. From there, it's time to officially kick off the birthday celebrations, and the group heads downstairs to 9 Steakhouse for dinner, where things escalate pretty quickly.
We started partying right away, doing shots, and Hef was doing them with us and everything, so it was a lot of fun.
Wow!
We were really bad. We were having Washington apples, redheaded sluts, purple hooters. We were bad.
The drinks are flowing, and before long, everyone is raising shot glasses and toasting to the birthday boy. After dinner, the party moves to Moon nightclub, where the velvet ropes have already been set up and a VIP section awaits. Watching these scenes back, one thing really stood out to me. The producers used to work overtime to pretend Holly, Bridget, and Kendra were just casually enjoying a night out. But now the background tells a completely different story. Everywhere you look, there are people craning their necks to get a better view. Fans are pointing, cameras are flashing. People are packed shoulder to shoulder around the VIP area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the stars. It's almost impossible to hide. Holly and Bridget have talked quite a bit on Girls Next Level about producer Kevin Burns wanting the show to feel as though the cameras just happened to be observing real life. He generally avoided showing fans screaming for the cast or reminding viewers that these women had become celebrities because of the very show they were watching. But by 2007, I honestly don't think there was any hiding it anymore. The show had become a hit. People weren't just excited because Hugh Hefner happened to be in the room. They were there for Holly, for Bridget, for Kendra. The Girls Next Door had become bigger than the premise that originally sold it. They were no longer just famous by association. They were famous, period. Eventually, the party winds down and everyone heads back upstairs to the Sky Villa. Hef and Holly call it a night. Kendra, not so much. Kendra and some of the girls decide that the glass-edged infinity pool overlooking the Las Vegas Strip is the perfect place for a late-night skinny dip. The next morning, things are pretty much back to business as usual. Hef is enjoying his standard breakfast of cereal and fresh fruit, proving once again that for a man who hosted some of the most extravagant parties in the world, his personal taste for food was remarkably ordinary. Meanwhile, Kendra is already back in the infinity pool. Actually, at this point, I don't even know if she slept. Maybe she just floated there all night. Either way, she's clearly having the time of her life. As a window washer makes his way down the side of the building, Kendra shakes her booty through the glass before flashing her chest at a group of businessmen who are standing on an upper deck across the way. Once everyone is showered, dressed, and presentable, it's time to head over to the Playboy store at the Forum Shops inside Caesar's Palace for a scheduled autograph signing. When they arrive, the line is enormous. People are packed at least 5 deep, stretching well beyond the entrance to the store. Fans are holding magazines, calendars, bobbleheads, DVDs, basically anything with a Playboy bunny or Girls Next Door logo on it. It's easy to forget just how popular this show had become, because today we mostly watch it through the lens of nostalgia. But seeing that crowd, woo! That's a good reminder that the Girls Next Door wasn't some niche reality show with a small cult following. It was a genuine pop culture phenomenon. And looking at the people waiting in line, there are young women and men, middle-aged couples, groups of friends, even kids. I spotted one little girl who couldn't have been more than 6 years old standing there with her family. It definitely represents how broad the audience for this show had become. People weren't necessarily showing up because they were Playboy readers anymore. They were showing up because they liked Holly, Bridget, and Kendra.
It's an unexplainable experience on how many lives we've affected and how people look up to us as role models. It used to be, Hef and some blonde beauties or whatever, and now it's like Hef, Holly, Bridget, and Kendra. It's really emotional and special. People know who we are, and we're not just a blonde chick. We're people now. Oh, God, I meant to...
And Bridget sums it up during her confessional when she says with the biggest smile on her face, "We're people now." That comment kind of sticks, or at least hangs there for a moment, because I think it's exactly how she felt. As the autograph signing wraps up, everyone heads back to the Palms to get ready for the evening's main event, Love by Cirque du Soleil. Bridget has borrowed a 60s-inspired, iridescent, bell-sleeved mini dress from Universal Studios, which she accessorizes with strappy heels, sunglasses, and a little gadget called a bump it, which could turn even the baby finest of hair into a bouffant. Everyone is dressed, everyone is ready, everyone is just kind of sitting around. They're having drinks, chatting, milling about the suite, and suddenly it dawns on me. They're waiting on Kendra. You don't even have to see what's happening upstairs to know she's holding everyone up. Sure enough, the cameras cut to Kendra mid-meltdown. Frowning in a gold lame dress with sweetheart neckline, she announces to Mary in a dramatic whine, "It's too big, Mary!" Now, to be fair, if you don't feel comfortable in what you're wearing, change it. We've all been there. Sometimes an outfit just isn't working, and it's better to figure that out in the hotel room than spend the whole night tugging at it. But get a move on it, girl. Don't just stand there waiting for compliments of opposing opinions. Finally, Kendra swaps out her first choice outfit for an emerald green slip dress. Problem solved. Until about 3 seconds later, when all chaos breaks loose. Kendra suddenly starts yelling, "Somebody stole my shoe!" She begins tearing through her luggage, tossing clothes over one shoulder, shoes over the other. Accessories are flying everywhere, and poor Mary is just standing there trying to make sense of it all.
So we're just waiting for a K-Dub.
That's a big surprise.
I don't understand that.
Shocked.
Oh my God. So big.
No. Mary, it's so big on me.
Didn't you try it on at the store?
Yes, but now it's bigger. I think I lost weight overnight or something. I was having a panic attack. I panic so bad sometimes, okay, when I have nothing to wear. Someone stole my shoes. I couldn't find my shoes anywhere. I'm like, oh my God.
Come here and use your eyes, honey. I can't see and see.
Yeah, Kendra, someone stole your shoe. Not, I'm so disorganized I can't find anything. No. Someone broke into the Hugh Hefner Sky Villa, ignored the jewelry, the designer handbags, the cash, and walked away with one size 7 high heel. I have to admit, this scene tested my patience. I don't like it. Take accountability, girl. You really are getting a little old for these shenanigans. Thankfully, Cara Monaco comes to the rescue. She calmly starts looking around the room, and within seconds, she finds the missing shoe. No thief, no conspiracy, just exactly where you'd expect it to be. Kendra. Kendra's that one friend who's convinced the universe is working against them, only to discover their sunglasses have been sitting on top of their head the entire time. Once the shoe mystery is officially solved, everyone can finally head out for what they'd all been looking forward to. The group arrives at Love, Cirque du Soleil's Beatles-inspired production at the Mirage. Side note, in 2007, if you wanted to see one of the hottest shows in America, you weren't buying tickets to a Taylor Swift stadium tour. You were going to Las Vegas. The Strip was in the middle of reinventing itself. It was becoming less about cheap buffets and penny slots, and more about blockbuster entertainment. Casinos weren't just competing over who had the loosest slot machines anymore. They were competing over who could land the biggest celebrity chef, the biggest headlining performer, or the most spectacular production. One show in particular had everyone talking, Love by Cirque du Soleil. It had opened the previous summer at the Mirage, and almost overnight it became the show to see. Instead of telling one continuous story like most Cirque productions, it was built around the music of the Beatles. Acrobats flew through the air while remixed versions of songs like Get Back, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and Come Together blasted through a state-of-the-art sound system unlike anything audiences had heard before. Even more remarkable, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Yoko Ono, and Olivia Harrison had all been involved in bringing the project to life. For Beatles fans, it wasn't just another Vegas show. It felt like an event. Looking back, it's funny to remember there was a time when simply seeing a Cirque du Soleil production felt like the ultimate luxury. Today, you can pull out your phone and watch clips of almost every major show in the world before you even buy a ticket. In 2007, you went in completely blind. The cameras only give us little glimpses of the show, but honestly, that's probably for the best. Part of the magic of seeing a Cirque performance is experiencing it for yourself. From their front row seats, Hef and Entourage watch as acrobats soar over the audience, dancers perform to reimagined Beatles classics, and the theater transforms into this colorful, dreamlike spectacle. Holly, in an interview, says the experience was particularly special for Hef because of the Playboy Mansion lore around the Beatles. One of the more infamous stories involves John Lennon and a priceless work of art. According to Hugh Hefner, Lennon attended one of the mansion's legendary Sunday movie nights in the early 1970s, during what Hef described as a particularly difficult period in the former Beatles' life. Lennon had reportedly been drinking and at some point during the evening stubbed out his cigarette on an original Henry Matisse artwork hanging in the mansion. Hefner later said he didn't actually witness the incident himself, but several guests did, and at least one of them was reportedly ready to confront Lennon over it. Instead, Hef chose to let it go, explaining that Lennon was under an enormous amount of personal and professional pressure at the time. The damaged artwork was eventually restored, and Lennon remained welcome at the mansion.
Afterwards, we got to go backstage. And when Hef walked in, they just started applauding and singing happy birthday.
Like, who gets to go backstage after a show like that and get a cake for their birthdays? Only Hef, I think.
A wonderful birthday present. Whatever I expected tonight from the show, it surpassed it on every level. A really truly moving evening.
After the performance, the Love cast invites the entire group backstage where they're waiting with a birthday cake and champagne for Hef. They gather around him and sing Happy Birthday. Hef is laughing, smiling, and at one point you can see him become visibly emotional. He even wipes away a few tears. For all the extravagant parties we've watched him host over the years, I guess there was something surprisingly sincere about seeing this world-famous production pause at the end of the night just to honor his birthday. Then we cut back to Holly's confessional.
We were definitely feeling the love at love.
All you need is love.
We were definitely feeling the love at love. And Holly has spent years making fun of it herself. On Girls Next Level, she and Bridget revealed that producers would occasionally feed them little one-liners or ask them to rephrase something to make it sound punchier. Holly has said this was one of those moments, and to this day she absolutely cringes whenever she hears it. With the Vegas festivities officially coming to an end, everyone heads back to Los Angeles. But Hef's birthday celebration isn't over just yet. Back at the Playboy Mansion, the staff has already transformed the house for Hef's annual Casablanca night, a birthday tradition he'd been hosting for years. If you've never seen the 1942 film Casablanca, it was one of Hef's all-time favorites. He loved old Hollywood glamour, black and white films, and anything that captured that era of elegance. So this party really was right in his wheelhouse. As guests begin arriving, champagne is flowing, caviar is being passed around, and the mansion once again feels like it's stepped into another decade.
For Casablanca night, I wore my grandma's wedding dress from 1943, and Casablanca was filmed in 1942. So after 64 years, the dress is still in great condition, and it's the perfect dress to wear.
Perfect? Beautiful.
Rather than buying a vintage-inspired dress, Bridget actually borrowed her grandmother's wedding gown from 1943. Now that is commitment to a theme. And it surprises me, not at all. Downstairs, guests mingle over dinner before the cameras briefly catch Holly carrying Victoria Fuller's baby. You might remember Victoria from last season when Holly hosted her baby shower. So it was kind of nice seeing that little callback. Standing beside Holly and baby, Hef smiles and addresses the room. Holly and I have an announcement. There's just enough of a pause for you to think, wait, what? But before anyone can jump to conclusions, Holly laughs, making it clear he's only joking. Among the party guests are Bridget's mom and stepdad, Jeff, who has brought cigars for the celebration. Watching everyone at dinner with cigars in hand is another one of those little reminders of how much culture has changed. In 2007, this still felt like the perfect finishing touch for an old Hollywood-themed birthday party. Today, I think half the guests would be offended if the designated smoking area wasn't outside, halfway down a hill and next to one of those eco-conscious, fire-safe cigarette disposal bins. Eventually, it's time for Holly, Bridget, and Kendra to present Hef with their birthday gift. Everyone gathers in the Great Hall as 3 enormous wrapped canvases are brought into the room.
Where's Puffin? A few years ago, an artist named Allison Leftcourt made a painting for Hef that he loves. It's his absolute favorite. And this year, she was kind enough to paint all 3 of us, and we were able to give those to Hef.
Puffin, we have your presents.
What you got? What you got?
1, 2, 3.
On the count of 3, the girls tear away the paper to reveal 3 oversized black and white pop art portraits of themselves. The style perfectly matches another piece of artwork Hef already owned by artist Allison Leftcourt, so you can immediately tell they'd put some thought into choosing something that would fit with the rest of his collection. Hef looks at the massive portraits lined up side by side, laughs, and says, "I'm going to have to get a bigger house." After Hef passed away and the mansion was sold, Holly and Bridget on Girls Next Level both wondered whatever became of those portraits. Did they end up in storage somewhere? Did someone keep them? Were they auctioned off? It's one of those little pieces of Girls Next Door history that seems to have completely disappeared. Which is kind of fitting in a bittersweet way. These enormous paintings were created to hang in one very specific place at one very specific moment in time. And once that chapter ended, they just quietly slipped into history. As the episode comes to a close, Holly, Bridget, Kendra, and Hef stop to pose for photographers one last time before the credits roll. And just like that, another birthday is in the books. Watching this episode now, I couldn't help thinking about how different it feels from the first season. Back then, the novelty was the Playboy Mansion itself. We were getting a peek behind the gates at a lifestyle most people had only read about in magazines. The mansion was the star, and Holly, Bridget, and Kendra were our tour guides. But somewhere along the way, that changed. By the spring of 2007, people weren't tuning in just to see what life at the Playboy Mansion looked like anymore. They were tuning in to spend time with Holly, Bridget, and Kendra. You can see it in the crowds waiting for autographs. You can see it in the giant marquee outside the Palms advertising the Girls Next Door alongside Hef's birthday. And you can hear it in Bridget's excitement when she says, "We're people now." 20 years later, that's still true. There are plenty of documentaries, books, and articles about Hugh Hefner. But the reason so many of us are still revisiting the Girls Next Door isn't because we're curious about what Hef had for breakfast or how many Armani suits he packed for Vegas. It's because Holly, Bridget, and yes, even Kendra, made this strange, over-the-top world feel surprisingly relatable. Whether it was Holly meticulously organizing every outfit, Bridget planning the perfect themed look, or Kendra accusing an imaginary shoe thief of ruining her evening, their personalities were always what grounded the spectacle. The private jets, the penthouse suites, the nightclub parties, those were fun to watch. But the friendships, the quirks, and the moments that made us laugh, those are the parts people still remember. Watching three young women who had unexpectedly become household names, navigating a life that was getting bigger and more public by the day, while still somehow feeling like people you'd actually want to hang out with, that's what keeps us coming back. And that's going to do it for this episode of More Girls Next Door. If you enjoyed today's recap, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with another Girls Next Door fan. It truly helps more people discover the show. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.
On the bricks.